Well, look, when matters of concern came to the party, we we investigated and inquired into them, and most importantly, referred them on to the PSNI and to social services. I mean, the young man who had received the unwanted and utterly inappropriate text messages was very upset by it. He wanted it to stop. That was his ask, but we took that much further. We judged that to be completely unacceptable behaviour. Matters were investigated by the appropriate authorities. There was no criminal finding or investigation, no illegality. But all the same, it just was not an acceptable standard of behaviour for an elected rep. And so he left. And I understand the idea of, being fully transparent on these matters because, accountability matters, consequences matter, and of course, transparency matters too. But just remember, at the time when all of this was happening, Niall O'Donnell was in a mental health crisis. And I say that not to offer up an excuse for his behaviour. There was no excuse and he was punished for his behaviour. But I was really, really fearful at that time what, a public articulation of this might mean.
But is Mr O'Donnell better now because this situation is being rehearsed in the public domain now?
Well, it is. He put out a statement himself this afternoon. And I think he's indicated in that statement that since his resignation that he's been working on his welfare and his mental health. And according to the statement, he seems to have made some progress in that regard.
OK, but when he resigned, there was a meeting, as you told the Dáil, on October the 5th, I think it was, with party officials in Belfast. It was explained to him that his behaviour was unacceptable and he agreed to resign. But he didn't resign until the 21st, I think it was, of December.
Yeah.
And in the intervening period, he remained Sinn Féin's leader in the Seanad.
Well, he was on sick leave, David. He was certified by his doctor as unfit for work. As I said, all of this that happened, all of this bad behaviour, unacceptable behaviour, and the inquiry into it and the referral to the police and the social services and his resignation, the consequences for his action happened at a time when he was in crisis, and consequently he wasn't in the Oireachtas. He was on extended sick leave at that point. OK,
and then when he did resign in December, you issued a statement thanking him for his contribution to the Seanad, expressing the hope he would overcome his health problems, wishing him and his family the very best for the future. You said he served diligently in the Seanad on Belfast City Council and as Lord Mayor and made a valuable contribution to the Joint Oireachtas Committee on the Good Friday Agreement. Now, no member of the public reading that would think there was anything amiss.
Well, look, and all of those things were true about him, but it was also true to say that his behaviour in sending inappropriate messages to a 17-year-old were completely unacceptable. And we did all things that were necessary to send that on to the relevant authorities and to hold him to account for it. And when I said on his leaving that I wished him well, especially in dealing with his health, I meant that. And to this day, I mean that. And I wish his family well. A person's mental health, particularly in extreme, matters all of the time, including when they've done something wrong, including when they have behaved really, really badly. And he had behaved really, really badly. And the sanction against him, resigning, coming out of the Seanad, losing the membership of the party, to people outside of politics, that might not sound like much, but to him it was a lot. I mean, it's what framed his life, and it was the right thing. It was an appropriate sanction for the bad behaviour, the unacceptable behaviour that he had demonstrated.
Just on a point of clarification, he is now today resigned as honorary president of his local GAA club. Did Sinn Féin inform the GAA club of the concerns about him?
Well, no. When you make a referral to the PSNI and to social services, they determine not just the investigation. They had a joint investigation that was not pursued in any way, but they also make assessments in terms of safeguarding and any onward communication and referral. That wouldn't be for a political party to do, David, not in this case or in any other. Our job as a political party is to ensure that our processes are robust, that they are applied efficiently and without fear and favour. We have a responsibility to refer onwards to the appropriate statutory agencies, and that thereafter then falls to the agencies in terms of sharing information like that.
OK, moving on to the case of Deputy Brian Stanley, and we should stress, first of all, as you did, in fairness, in the Dáil, that there's no question of a child being involved in this.
Yes.
But you did tell the Dáil that the allegation against him concerned his personal behaviour, and it left the complainant feeling traumatised and distressed by her account. That sounds like a very serious allegation, and yet Deputy Stanley wasn't suspended from the party. He remained as chair of the Public Accounts Committee during the several months when this has been investigated, and Sinn Féin only referred the matter to the Gardaí on Sunday after he'd resigned and made the issue public.
Well, just remember that the seriousness, the gravity of the complaint came to light in the course of the investigation, and not just the complaint, but as you know, there was a counter-allegation made by Deputy Stanley. At that point, he was advised to go to the Gardaí. He chose not to. That's something he will have to explain himself. The complaint against him is serious, as I said in the Dáil, and the complainant feels, as I expressed, traumatised and distressed. Brian Stanley resigned at the weekend. And at that point, a preliminary inquiry had been done. It came to the attention of the person who heads up our disciplinary process, which is an independent process within the party. At that point, more legal advice is taken, and the party chair is briefed, I'm briefed, and we decide to refer everything on to the Gardaí, because it would not have sat comfortably with me, and I don't think it would have been right or acceptable to have a complaint on the one hand and a counter-allegation with Sinn Féin, and nowhere for a resolution or a conclusion. So I think the right thing was to refer those matters on.
Okay.
We lodged them with Kevin Street Garda Station on Sunday last, and it'll now be for the Gardaí to make a determination around if and what type of investigation might be merited. OK,
but a lot of people watching might be slightly confused. If the allegation wasn't serious enough to be referred to the Gardaí in July or August when it was first made, why is it suddenly serious enough to be referred to Gardaí now that the matter has come into the public domain?
Well, it's not about that. It's about the fact that in the course of the inquiry, a counter-allegation, which was very serious, relating to the first matter was made. And at that point, Deputy Stanley was advised to go to the Gardaí. He didn't. And, you know, probably to the letter of things, it would be for Deputy Stanley to go to the Gardaí, or the complainant to make the referral. But as a political party, here we are. These things transpired in the course of an inquiry. And now we have to call it, and I've called it in a way that allows for an investigation in the way the Gardaí deem appropriate to actually take possession of these issues and to bring things to some conclusion. And I think that's in everybody's best interest.
Would it have been better for you to be more fully informed earlier in the process and perhaps make that referral earlier in the process?
No. In any organisation, and I really hope that RTE is no different to others, disciplinary procedures have to be independent, arm's length. Part of protecting the rights and fair process for both the complainant and the respondent is to ensure that there is confidentiality, not secrecy, but confidentiality in the process, so that there can be no interference or undue influence brought to bear. The independence of all of this is very important. And by the way, so as your viewers know, this process in Sinn Féin is independent, arm's length, and it is supervised by a practising barrister. We've gone to very great lengths to make sure that we are procedurally in order, that we observe natural justice and due process, and that everybody's rights are recognised and protected, and that there is fairness at the core.
One of Brian Stanley's contentions is that a clique within the party, presumably in his own constituency, was trying to undermine him. Now, it appears that the incident which gave rise to the complaint happened in October of last year, almost exactly a year ago as it happened, but it wasn't reported to the party until the end of July, beginning of August, which just happened to coincide with the opening of nominations for the next general election. Now, that, on the face of it, would seem to bear out his contention that somebody was out to get him.
Well, I would urge you to be very careful in asserting that. I know that that's Brian Stanley's assessment of things.
Well, it's not Brian Stanley's assessment of things. It's the timeline that Sinn Fein has laid out of when the incident allegedly happened and when it was reported to the party.
Well, I have set out the timeline. That timeline is factual. You're drawing conclusions from that timeline and.
Well, what bit of it isn't factual?
So, I'm not questioning the timeline, David. I'm saying you are ascribing a motive to a person who brought a complaint to Sinn Féin. I'm not doing that. All I know is that the complaint came. The complaint is serious. The complaint was taken seriously. The complaint was inquired into. Both parties were given full due process and fairness. In the course of it, a counter-allegation enters into the equation. Brian Stanley resigns. And we have now, for an abundance of caution and for conclusion, and given the seriousness of the situation, we have referred all of that on to Kevin Street Garda Station here in Dublin for the Gardaí to decide what, if any, appropriate further investigation is necessary. That's their job now. And I'm not going to attribute motive to anybody. All I know is when a complaint is made, and especially a serious one, and especially in relation to one of our elected members, I don't ascribe motive. I take it and the party takes it, and then the process is run without fear or favour, independently and fully.
Sinn Féin leader Mary Lou McDonald, thanks for joining us on 6-1.